Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum.
Welcome to our horror movie review. I Know What You Watched Last Week, episode 21, and our fourth and final Halloween special for the year.
That was the Mr. Sandman intro I was doing there.
Well, yeah, I thought that was obvious. Surely it doesn't have to be mentioned.
I was expecting you to do the Mr. Sandman bit.
No!
And then I would carry on going bum 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 bum.
This isn't a singing or a cappella show. This is horror movies. So, why don't you introduce which 3 movies we watched for the final Halloween special?
Why don't you introduce what 3 movies we watched?
Well, baby.
We watched it in reverse order. So
Well, we watched the Halloween movies. First of all, you haven't even said that yet.
No, we did not watch the Halloween movies. We watched some Halloween movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, carry on.
Thank you. So first, we watched the one and only Halloween Resurrection, followed by Halloween H20, not Halloween H2O, which is what just I and everyone else in England, as I can recall, always called it. And I was like, why the hell is it called Halloween Water? And it was only a bit later we found out it was actually a 20, not H2O. Marketing problems there. And finally, we watched Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Yes.
So we've gone for the 3-dimension release Halloween movies.
Okay. And as we watched all 3 of them, I remember I've seen all of them before. But,
Definitely Halloween Water, H2O, H20.
that's the one I remember the best. So in terms of rankings, going from 3rd place,
These are all great, by the way, so this is...
In your opinion.
This is so tough.
It's got to go... Okay, 3rd place has to go to... number 6.
The Curse of Michael Myers.
The Curse of Michael Myers. And then it's followed by Halloween Resurrection.
I thought Halloween Resurrection was definitely going to be your last place.
It was. It was a close call for the last place. But when we get into it, I guess I'll explain mostly why. And then Halloween H20 gets the gold.
Yeah. I've got the other way, so I've gone Halloween Resurrection in last place, Curse of Michael Myers in second, and Halloween H2O. Halloween H20. I did it again. I'm just so used to saying the Halloween H2O most of my entire life.
Yeah. Oh, also briefly, an interlude in this review. My costume for the episode is inspired by the Day of the Dead.
She's dead.
Yeah. So anyway, moving along.
So what do you want to start with? Curse of Michael Myers or Halloween Resurrection? As the 2 last place picks.
Let's go...
Just smash the camera.
Yeah, let's go with number 6, I think. I have so many questions about this movie. I don't understand what the hell
Well, you don't even know.
going on.
You have seen them, but you don't know Halloween 4 and 5. If I said to you, name me one thing that happens in Halloween 4 or 5, you couldn't name me a single.
No, I think that was the problem, because I'm sure that all the names mentioned are very relevant to the story.
Well, there's a lot of names.
There's a lot of names.
It's very convoluted.
And then there's a whole thing with adoption and all. Basically, I was just like sat there trying desperately to work out in my mind what was going on, but I failed miserably. So this might just be a few minutes talking of you enlightening me on what the hell is going on in that film.
Gladly. As you've somewhat alluded to, just getting through the storyline might take up a good hour. So expect
Let's keep it shorter than that, I think.
What do you want to know?
Okay, so we'll go chronologically as far as I can remember it. We'll start with the very beginning, where there's a woman giving birth in some demonic ritual situation.
That is the character Jamie Lloyd.
Jamie Lloyd, who is supposedly...
Well, she's
who?
Also in Halloween 4 and 5.
Okay.
And she plays Yeah, a young girl. So she's the young girl version of Jamie Lloyd in 4 and 5.
Right.
And she has kind of psychic powers where she can communicate with Michael Myers. She's Michael Myers' niece.
Right.
So at the beginning of Halloween 6, what you're seeing is Michael Myers' niece, Jamie Lloyd, and she's in amongst the cult of the ritual of Thorn.
Wait, his niece. So that's what? So Jamie Lee Curtis had a daughter. I think actually they do mention at some point in the movie, because I remember them saying, Jamie, don't let the same thing happen to you as happened to Jamie Lee and her daughter. And I was like, wait, she had a kid? I don't remember that. So, okay, so that's what I missed in the previous installments. So I didn't fully understand the relationship from the beginning between this cult.
So I'm not actually sure. Is Jamie? I don't think Jamie Lloyd is.
Well, who
is
else?
Laurie's daughter.
Who else? Because she has to be the daughter of a sibling of Michael Myers.
Yeah, there'll be other.
So who else is a sibling of Michael Myers?
Well, Laurie Strode is not a sibling of Michael Myers.
Right. So then, how does...
Wait, you're confusing me now. See, this is how confusing this movie is, because I've just said she's not a sibling of Michael Myers. Clearly, Michael Myers is Jamie Lee Curtis's brother.
I was going to say, I thought so.
So, I've just never really, I don't know about Jamie Lloyd being Laurie's daughter.
Well, I'm just deducing, because it's the only possible
So
explanation.
I'm going by Halloween H2O, right? Because what they've done in there, they've retconned everything except for Halloween and Halloween 2.
Well,
so by the time we get to number 6, it's still following.
I was thinking that these 3 films that we're reviewing now, you can't buy any of them as realistic follow-ups to each other, because none of them go together.
They have no correlation to each other.
So you have to
whatsoever.
think of them just completely separately. But I guess, as you just mentioned then, with number 6, it brings in previous characters, so that just makes it even more confusing to me.
Whether or not Jamie Lloyd is Laurie's daughter is irrelevant. Just all we need to know is that she is Michael Myers' niece, and she has psychic powers where she can connect with Michael.
Who's the dad of the baby? Who's she been with, and where is he? What happened?
Well, that's a whole other thing, because in 4 and 5, it's not like Jamie's being looked after by her parents.
Yeah, I get that. Anyway, so then the cult, I'm assuming this is the first film where this cult is introduced.
Well, the cult... Well, this is why I say it's going to take so long. So in number 5, at the end of number 5, do you recall watching number 6, you must do the Man in Black, right? And he jumps out at Danny, the boy, a character called Kara's son in this movie, and he's standing in front of his wardrobe in his bedroom, and he's like, "Kill for me," something like this. At the end of number 5, and all throughout number 5, the Man in Black is just seen in the background of the movie, kind of like walking about, hovering, stuff like this, much like Michael Myers would do in the original. And at the end of number 5, Jamie Lloyd and Michael Myers are somewhat kidnapped by the Man in Black. And then we don't know what happened, because it ends at that point. Now, when it came to writing number 6, when they went to go and ask, so what is the Man in Black all about? No one had an answer. They were like, oh no, he's just in the movie, we don't know. All they thought was, let's put a Man in Black in the movie, and we'll think about everything else later on. So in number 6, what we get is Daniel Farrens, the writer of number 6, and don't blame him for what you've seen on the screen. For obvious reasons, I always have to say it, his script was meddled with, from top to bottom pretty much.
Well, I didn't think the idea in itself was bad, but as a number 6 in this series, it doesn't really work.
So when we see the Jamie Lynn at the beginning of number 6, and she's with the Cult of Thorn, it's kind of I feel like she's been raped there in this cult, because she's been held there for this long, because as I said, she was a child in number 4 and number 5.
Oh, so you think she's been living with this cult the whole time?
Yeah, it might even be Michael Myers' kid, some have speculated, which is super weird, right? So the whole thing of the Ritual of Thorn is they try to give Michael Myers a supernatural backstory, and to explain why he never dies and what his motivations are, what the evil is, and stuff like this. So
I understand that, but I don't think it was done very well. And the other aspect is that they seem to sort of divulge between two different...
I'm not trying to sell to you whether it was done well or not, I'm just trying to explain very clearly what is going on, because there's so many little parts connected to all the big parts that it's just super hard to follow.
But yeah, what I was saying was that there are two parts that I don't really understand why they're both in there. So we open with this woman who we've just discussed copiously.
Jamie Lynn, character Jamie Lynn.
She has a baby.
Yeah.
And she actually manages to escape with the help of a nurse from this...
Yeah, and the nurse
building.
is just put there in the movie. She's not...
And they're being chased by the man in black, right?
No, they're being chased by Michael Myers.
They're being chased by Michael. See, again, I already didn't understand. I was like, well, where the hell has Michael Myers come from all of a sudden?
Michael Myers is all through the beginning of this, because he, as I said, along with Jamie Lynn at the end of number 5, is taken away by the man in black. So he's essentially just living with this Thorn cult, and
not killing anyone. That makes no sense.
Because it's explained later on when we get the returning character of Tommy Doyle, played by the one and only Paul Rudd. In his first movie role, he was listed as Paul Stephen Rudd. He was going for a double name back early on, I guess. Dropped it after one movie, maybe because he felt the movie was so bad. It's alright, I've got to change my name so no one knows I was actually in this. And he's sitting with the character Kara at one point at his computer, and he's talking about the druids and the ritual Thorn and the symbol of Thorn, and how the druids were great mathematicians and astrologers, and the symbol of Thorn is from a constellation in the sky which makes itself known on certain Halloween nights, and that's when Michael turns up to do his evil bidding.
Yeah, okay.
The ritual's evil bidding.
Pretty dumb.
Well, like I said, this is...
And why is this...
I love that I've just gone into that scene featuring Paul Rudd as Tommy Doyle, who was being babysat by Laurie in the original Halloween, with just no backstory, and he's just explaining to Kara about druids and stone rituals,
but that kind of
stone
sums up the
symbols,
movie.
and rituals.
And the weird thing is they did it with such a serious tone, but everything that was being said was so ridiculous. It should have been done in like some flamboyant manner if they were going to go with that. But I still haven't even finished my point, Johnny, which was that they have the baby storyline, but then they also have Kara's son, Danny, I want to say, and he's got like some voices in his head that's supposed to also be some kind of backstory.
Where Paul Rudd, aka Tommy Doyle, is still living in his house. We haven't even scratched the surface of this movie yet. So Paul Rudd is living in his original house, but it's not just him living there. There's this old lady character. I've forgotten her name.
I'll pop it up, don't worry about it.
No, I'm gonna have to bring her up a lot, so I'll just look her up quickly. Yeah, that's it. Mrs. Blankenship. And she's so it's suggested that she's mostly deaf, keeps to herself, doesn't talk, because at one point we have the 3 younger characters driving by and they yell out "Happy Halloween" to Mrs. Blankenship, and she
never hears anything.
She never hears anything, and she's sitting in Paul Rudd's house at one point, and she just doesn't say anything when Paul Rudd says hello to her and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, about 2/3 away from her, she comes to life and she's talking to Danny and telling him the significance of the night of Halloween and what it really means, because he's like, oh, it's all about candy and trick or treat, and she just tells him this kind of ominous story really. And then Danny's mother comes in, takes him away from Mr. Blankenship, and also she comes out with, he hears the voice, just like Michael Myers did at the house down the road or whatever. So there's this whole thing about the ritual of Thorn have selected Michael, and they've now selected Danny to be, I don't know, not heir apparent, because apparently it happens to lots of kids, because it's explained in that scene where they're talking about the astrology and stuff like this, that one child used to have to be taken from each clan to keep the rest of the family alive. It was like a blood sacrifice or something.
I think it was the opposite. That one kid is supposed to kill their family
crazy.
so that the other family
This movie is crazy.
It's so dumb, and yeah, she's supposed to obviously be adding to the whole backstory after what you already said that Paul Rudd mentions to Kara. But she ends up being part of like the cult that keeps this thing going. I guess that's what they're supposed to be doing.
The cult that controls and protects Michael Myers, apparently.
Oh my gosh! And we also get back Loomis.
Of course, yeah.
Which is always great. He is a highlight.
He's in all of them apart from number 3 and... Well, this was his last one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The other 2 that we watched and that we're reviewing don't have him in them. So that's great. But it's just everything together is so convoluted. There are so many storylines going on. And I just never really knew what I was concentrating on. Even the fact when they... So Danny is... Who's Kara? She was adopted by the Strodes? What, so...
No,
I'm so confused.
The Strodes... So there's a new Strode family now, or new members of the Strode family who we haven't seen before. And they're now living in the Myers household.
So they're the relations of the original Jamie Lee Curtis character?
Yes, they are. They're Strodes.
Right.
Right. So you've got...
hang on. Were they also suggesting at one point that Jamie Lee Curtis character was adopted by the Strodes?
Yes, not Kara. So after what's happened to Laurie...
So after what's happened to Laurie, she was adopted by the Strodes?
Yeah, which doesn't really make sense, because she's known as Laurie Strode from the off in the original, but...
Okay, moving on. So then you've got Kara, who
you've got Kara, and you've got these other Strodes that are living in this house. It's like Tim is the son, John is the dad, Deborah is the mother, and then you've got Kara, who has turned up after 5 years away from the family with her son. Well, her son's older than 5, obviously. He's probably like 10. So she's...
I would have said like...
I can't tell.
8 or something?
Young kids age. So okay, let's say 8. 8 years old. As young as 6 maybe. Wow, I wouldn't.
I have no idea actually.
Anyway, so Danny the son is there, and Kara's turned up back to the household after 5 years, and John the dad, he's a real arsehole.
Yeah, they really lay that on thick.
Yeah.
What a bad guy he is.
And the guy that plays him does it really well.
Yeah,
I hate
strongly
him.
dislike him.
Yeah. and Deborah, the mother, is really put upon. You can tell she's very timid because this guy, John, is so overpowering every situation with the family, and he hits Kara in the face during this scene and stuff like this, and he calls Danny a little bastard and things, and I kind of got again, because there's no explanation as to why she went away or why she's come back.
Yeah.
And then the scene afterwards when she's left the house and she's with her friends in the car, and Tim says something to her about not having been horny in a long time, and she doesn't react, she just stays kind of regular, and all these little things hinting.
Is that not a weird thing for a brother to say to a sister? That seemed like a really... I was like, if they were just mates, it would be a different thing, but I was like, wait, isn't that her brother? So that's a really weird thing to bring up.
Yeah, we just got to kind of... do you gloss over that, or do you just... I don't know. The whole thing was weird. Whose idea was that? I don't know.
Every single moment
but
was
so
weird, to be fair.
So he remarks that to her, kind of thing, and everything just points to me and the way that the dad is with her, because John also sees a photo of her in his office at one point. I think it's his office. Anyway, he's got a photo of her on a desk when he's sitting down, and he picks it up and he says something like, he says something about Halloween, and then calls her like pretty little princess. And it's the way that he says it and the way that he looks, added with the comment from Tim, and added with why we don't know if she's gone away and come back. I feel like he's a rapist. I feel like he's possibly raped her, and that's why she's come back, and that would tie in to Jamie Lynn being raped by the cult and the whole rumours of Michael being the father. There's all these things which have to be on purpose. It can't just be a coincidence.
I mean, I just assumed she'd run off young with some boy, had a baby, tried to make it for 5 years, been left by him, and then come back because she decided
it's the stuff that John the father does and says that really gives me this creep vibe.
Yeah, I just don't see how that would ever lead to someone coming back. But anyway, let's not even bother, because that could go for a whole new conversation.
And that's the thing with this movie, you could go off on so many tangents and go, what about this, what about that? What do you think about this? It's just so many things.
Yeah. So his death when he finally gets offed is of course very satisfying, but it's sad that his poor put upon wife had to pass before that.
So let's kind of just step away from this very confusing story just for a bit, and kind of go for some of the backstory of the movie. So the guy Daniel Farrens that wrote this, he was or is a huge fan of the Halloween franchise, and he knew all about it, and including obviously, as I said, he knows everything. The Man in Black ending of number 5, and so when he was hired to write this, he'd gone through, I mean, with like a fine tooth comb, like made up the family trees, the histories, the ritual of Thorn, like kind of history and what they're all about, and he had the whole thing like come together. It seems like as one more cohesive piece of work, and people like Donald Pleasance had read the script and really enjoyed the script that he created. There was an executive at Dimension who said after he read the script he couldn't sleep, and he phoned Daniel Farrens in the night and said, you know, this is great, we want to go forward with this. Donald Pleasance was on board, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And by the time it came to Joe Chappelle coming to direct this, and then you've got Bob Weinstein, the head of Dimension behind the scenes, who just, basically the script was rewritten 11 times during production, and it was also being written on days of the shoot. So Joe Chappelle would just, you know, throw things out and then be like, oh, let's just do this instead. And that's why, I don't know if you noticed, there are just stupid edits in this movie. Just edits that are so amateurish. I highlighted one in particular, and it's when Kara is being, you know, what's her name again, Mrs. Blinkenship or something like that. She's coming at Kara. So Kara throws herself out of a window, much like Michael Myers falls from the balcony in the first one. She lands on the ground below, and we see her like in the shape where she's just landed. And previous to this, Dr. Loomis and Paul Rudd, Tommy Doyle, they've just been ambushed by the Ritual of Thorn, all the people in robes and stuff like this. And then it cuts to, her being, Kara being chased by Mr. Blinkenship and throwing herself out the window. She throws herself out the window, lands on the floor, all of a sudden it fades to black, which is something you never want to do in a movie unless it's like set in something completely new afterwards. It fades to black, and then we haven't seen what's happened to Dr. Loomis or Tommy Doyle, and all of a sudden it just edits back in, and they're standing in the exact spot where she's just been shown lying on the ground, and Paul Rudd says something like, I feel like I was drugged, and then Dr. Loomis is like, we were drugged, and then Paul Rudd says, what is going on here? And it just has this horrible dialogue, and it explains everything we just haven't seen. Well, we drugged you. I think we were drugged. And then they ask, why did they drug us? Why didn't they just kill us? It's amateurish.
I'm pretty sure I gave you a look at that point actually when they were like, why didn't they just? And I was looking at you and I was like, what the hell? What is this?
All of this is blamed on the director, writers / writer, and executives all just arguing to the point of, you know, unbelievability.
But it's such a bad idea. Like, if you get a script and you decide this is great, go with it.
I also happen to mention Joe Chappelle, who was hired to do this movie, on set in front of the cast and crew said to everyone, I hate the Halloween movies and I'm only doing this to get a 3-picture deal from Dimension. What a great way to motivate the cast. So apparently everybody was completely miserable on this set, and they were even more upset once they showed this movie to test screenings, which is known, I believe, as the producer's cut, which is something which is hard to get for a long time. It's been restored more recently, and is apparently the superior cut of the movie, according to Daniel Farrens anyway. Which we don't have. We saw the regular cut. And anyway, the producer's cut was shown to test screenings. Everybody just hated it, so they cut it again, had reshoots and things like this, completely different endings, and by the time they were doing the reshoots and things, Donald Pleasance had unfortunately passed away, so they had like a body double, and people were saying it was just weird seeing the guy as a body double. You'd be like, oh, was that him for a second kind of thing? It was like kind of haunting, I guess. And as well as Joe Chappelle saying that he's not a fan of the Halloween movies, he also claimed that he cut a lot of Dr. Loomis because he just found the character boring. I was like,
blasphemous.
Yeah, this guy sounds like
I mean,
total idiot.
best part of the film.
He does. I think he does he gives a great
actor.
performance in this movie in particular. I really
Yeah.
think he does brilliantly
Age
in
always
this movie.
brings some gravitas as well.
Yeah.
But I love what's happened to his voice in it and all that. It just always brings up. On the same note, though, a very strange revelation to me was I'm a lover of Paul Rudd.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask
think
you about
he's-
this.
I think he's brilliant,
He's funny, isn't he? He can perform.
hilarious.
Brilliant.
All the comedy stuff I've seen him in, which is what I mostly know him from, I can't. It's hard to beat. Basically, huge fan. So it's a bit disconcerting to see his performance in this film.
You know, he's part pervy, he's part weirdo, he's part playing it straight.
I can't tell if it's just a bit unfair on him the way everything was filmed and cut and maybe explained to him on set, but it's my least favourite Paul Rudd performance
I think it's my favourite.
I've ever seen.
Give a bit of backstory on how Tommy Doyle, Paul Rudd, is introduced in this movie. Mentioned at the beginning, we've got pregnant Jamie Lynn, and she's giving birth in the satanic ritual room, burning candles, all this great stuff, people in robes, and when it's zooming, like the camera's zooming in on a baby in a kind of a ritual altar, and then we get our first taste of Paul Rudd with his voiceover.
I didn't like that aspect either, by the way.
Apparently,
But carry on.
originally it was going to be Dr. Loomis's voiceover, but I couldn't
Makes
imagine
more
that.
sense.
But I couldn't imagine that even
But
being.
I just don't like
That
the
makes any
voiceover
sense.
aspect
No.
in this.
Michael does his thing. He chases Jamie Lynn, all this kind of stuff, and Jamie Lynn escapes with her baby to a bus depot, and she gets on the phone because there's like a radio phone-in show going on, and Tommy Doyle's listening to this radio phone-in, so that's how he hears that Kara and the baby are at this bus depot, because she's saying, "Oh, Michael Myers is after me," all this kind of stuff. Dr. Loomis is also listening. How coincidental! And after this is all revealed, we see Tommy Doyle, Paul Rudd, on the phone, talking to the radio host on the phone in, and he's giving this really serious kind of speech like, "Michael Myers is back. He never went away. He's not going to go away until his work is done." Kind of like dialogue like that.
It's bizarre and unnecessary. Even if he knows that, it makes the character seem super weird, because why is he calling in to say this to like some radio station?
Kara also lives across
also-
the road from Tommy Doyle, and the first time she sees him, she's in her underwear, and she looks out of her window, and Tommy Doyle's looking at her through like a telescope or something
A
like that.
camera
So he's a
lens.
right perv, yeah, with a camera lens.
Yeah, and they try and also he doesn't even like hide and shame. She sees him and he's just there like
That's what I'm saying. He's a freak,
so bizarre.
freak
But,
perv.
also, the other thing is when that radio phone call in from Jamie Lynn is going on, she didn't really do anything to help herself. All she did was, "I'm in danger, I'm in danger." No one has any idea where she is. She mentions Michael
She
Myers.
calls
but,
out
like,
for Dr.
how's she
Loomis.
supposed to be helped? Yeah, well, what's Dr. Loomis supposed to do?
Well, he goes on the hunt for Michael Myers again, doesn't he? So clearly he gets it. Plus,
Yeah,
we
okay,
forget
but-
that we forget also, as I've told you, we're carrying on the character Jamie Lynn here. She has psychic powers, so she's probably like just communicated them through mind
She doesn't
power.
mention either about the baby.
It's just not mentioned. Doesn't need to be mentioned if you know the character.
Oh yeah, and that was the other thing
She's
that brings me
psychic.
on to Paul Rudd finding the baby in the cupboard. How
In the
the
bus
hell
depot.
did nobody find this bloody baby before then?
Again, you got to scratch over that.
And
Yeah.
where's the blood trail is still just there and people are just wandering
I
about.
just thought a couple of things at the beginning when Jamie Lynn's being chased by Michael Myers, and she's got the baby. There's a bit where she ends up outside, and she's come out of like a basement setting, and following behind her, we see then Michael Myers come out of the basement hatch, and the way that he's walking, I feel like behind the mask he's going, "Oh, my back," because he's walking like he's really been through some hard labour or something that day, down in the mines, down in the pit.
You've brought up another big peeve of mine with this film, which was the physicality of Michael Myers. There were other moments where he was, like waving his arms about as he walked, or there were moments where he got it right, but there was too many moments where he just completely missed the mark, and I didn't like it at
One of the
all.
moments that, and this is quite pedantic possibly, but Kara at the beginning, she's hiding in the toilet cubicles, in one of the cubicles, and Michael Myers is walking along the closed cubicles, and we see the camera, and it's his hand pushing
open the doors.
and the way that he pushes and like follows through. That's just a human.
It was a huge. I
way,
noticed that
not,
exact thing as well. I was like, I don't like that. He should have done it like straight and done like that.
That's a director problem.
Well, of course, even the way it was directed is just.
So with him having a bad back coming out of the basement hatch, and with him, doing his hand gestures like Michael Myers wouldn't do, it brings me back to then Paul Rudd. It's got to be the direction he was given, because his performance is totally bizarre. There's a bit down in the movie towards the end where he's trying to get into a locked room and he's got a fire extinguisher, Tommy Doyle, and he's banging the doorknob really hard with his fire extinguisher, and Michael Myers comes out of nowhere. Tommy sees him, turns around with the fire extinguisher in his hand. He just starts pulling these really weird faces. Like, why is Paul Rudd pulling these faces?
I quite liked his performance in a tiny bit of that though, when he's doing his repetitive banging motion to try and get the handle off, and that's when he first looks up and spots Michael Myers, and he kind of does like his body is half continuing the motion out of habit, whilst his mind is taking it in. I quite liked that moment. I thought it was good.
I didn't say I disliked it. As I said, this is if not, maybe it's not my favourite Paul Rudd performance, but it's easily top 2. Okay, it's number 1.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't feel like any of the moments he gave, this is going to sound so poncy, were untruthful.
Well, you are an actor.
He sold what he was giving us, but it didn't necessarily make sense in the context or with the dialogue or all this. So I'm gonna give Paul Rudd a break here and just let's all just shove our problems with this film onto the director's.
I would. There isn't an audio commentary to this movie. I would just love to
hear from a Halloween hating director.
I mean, not so much him. I'm talking about Paul Rudd and some of the other cast. It'd be cool to hear about them, because obviously, not obviously to you. So there was an actress called Danielle Harris who plays Jamie Lynn in 4 and 5, and she's been replaced in number 6. And she wanted to come back, and at the time she was only 17, and the studio said, we want someone who's 18 or over for work hours and things like this. So they suggested to her that she gets emancipated from her parents. So she went through with it and spent thousands of dollars on legal fees and things like this, so that she could release herself legally to do long hours on set. She did all that, and then she saw the script and saw that the production company weren't willing to meet her demands, which was only $5,000, and that was just to cover her legal costs of getting emancipated. That's how much she wanted to do this movie, and she saw the script and felt she wasn't treated right and just said, I'm not doing it.
It should be shocking, and I'm always shocked when I hear it in the first moment, but then I think, well, this is the film industry, and nothing should really shock you.
It was an actress called J.C. Brandy who played Jamie Lloyd in this, so she obviously has the character killed off.
Okay, Jamie Lloyd, because you've called her Jamie Lynn a few times throughout this discussion.
Jamie
It's really
Lynn.
confusing me. I was like, Jamie Lynn, isn't that Britney Spears' sister?
Jamie Lynn Spears. Yeah, Jamie Lloyd.
Even I called her Jamie Lynn at one point because you kept saying it, so I'm sorry to everyone watching. We're trying to clear this up now.
They'll get it, yeah. So
they've been laughing at us the whole time.
Character of Jamie Lloyd, the actress was replaced in this, even with all that.
I didn't mind the actress, but I didn't love her. That's all I can say about that performance.
Quite a hard performance, just screaming throughout the whole thing.
Terribly difficult.
Yeah, so I thought she did. I thought she did pretty well. Again, so now Michael, let's go back to his hatch. Let's get off of Paul Rudd for a second. I'm sure he'll come back. When Michael Myers comes out of this basement hatch with his bad back, and he's still stalking Kara, Kara comes across a truck. When we watch Halloween H2O, at the beginning, Michael drives off from a crime scene, and he said, wait, Michael Myers drives? I said, yeah, this is alluded to in the original. I say, Dr. Loomis brings it up. He's like, what have you been doing? Teaching him to drive while he's been locked up? And I said, yeah, so he can drive. You've got to remember, Jamie Lynn has been locked up by
Lloyd.
I know. Has been locked up by the Ritual of Thorn, the Cult of Thorn, since she was a child, and yet she escapes from Michael Myers, finds that truck, and drives off.
But isn't that just your interpretation of it? They might have kidnapped her out of nowhere.
No, she's been gone for a time because why has she grown up in this movie? How was she? She got out.
Was she one of the ones that was mentioned as being missing? Okay, I'm with you now.
Right, and also when she gets into this truck, it's pouring down with rain, and the truck is unattended. But the driver, the owner of the truck, is there next to his truck, just having a beer. Why has he stepped out of his truck in the pouring rain to knock back a beer? And then she gets into his truck.
She gets in, and he's like, "Oh." He must assume she's stealing it because he starts being like, "Hey, what are you doing with my truck? What are you doing with my truck?"
Yeah.
And he's, as you said, he's just a few paces away, and yet he barely moves any closer the whole time, expecting a polite explanation from the supposed thief of why they're stealing your truck before they actually do it.
Yeah.
I mean, how daft was that?
So Jamie Lloyd is in this truck, and she starts to burn rubber, but Michael Myers in hot pursuit, because they can both drive. Obviously, the Ritual of Thorn does teach you how to drive. And they end up in a barn. And this is where we see Jamie Lloyd get her comeuppance, and she's forced onto what is it?
Some kind of farming
Yeah,
instrument.
it's a three-pronged
prongs with
farming
extra
instrument.
little sort of.
Yeah, it's coming through her torso,
sharp bit.
and she's saying dialogue like "You can't have my baby, Michael."
Yeah.
And he pushes her further onto it, and then all of a sudden, he switches on the machine and all starts twisting around.
Gruesome.
Yeah. As much as it seems like I'm tearing this movie apart, I still just really like it. And some of the there's a lot made of the extra gore which is in this movie. In the producer's cut, apparently there's not so much gore, and it's been all added in. But I kind of enjoy just the change of have it rather than just be like a really stalker in the dark kind of thing. They just went the gore way. So we have that, and then we have the arsehole father John, who is. He gets the old classic knife in the back from Michael Myers, or from the front, shall I say? And Michael lifts him off the floor with his knife in him, even though John must be like 300 pounds. But at this point, we know Michael Myers is supernatural. So this is why he can do this all along. And he puts him into like a power line, and he starts to get electrocuted, John, before just exploding. So they really threw the kitchen sink at gore
just
violence.
Before he gets exploded, all the power has gone out in the house, and yet his washing machine is still going, and he mentions it, because at that point I was going to say, well, this is ridiculous, the power's out, why is that? And
the washing machine death is a running thing in Halloween.
Yeah, but why is there power in this washing machine?
Again, you just got to gloss over it, because I asked myself the same thing.
I don't like it.
Right, and you drive yourself nuts just thinking about everything that is just continuation wrong and just just intellectually wrong with this movie. So really as I mentioned, the motorist guy has decided to get out of his truck and have a beer in the pouring rain.
As you do.
He should have stayed in his truck, because Michael Myers comes up to him, twists his neck, and we see like the whole neck split essentially, and we see the flesh inside.
Again, very gory.
Yeah, it's just something which separates this movie from other Halloween movies with the excessive gore.
But it ties into what I didn't like about how how Michael Myers' whole physicality was so different. You said you liked that they added in this aspect to him, and I could agree with that, but then it should be more of a spoofy, funny one when it's like way down the line.
So, George P. Wilbur played the Shape in this movie, which is what Michael Myers is known as. In the cast list, he's the Shape. This is the second time that he's played the Shape, Michael Myers, who was also in Halloween 4, like stunts, and I think he might have been him in number 5 as proper. Anyway, doesn't really matter. It's the second time he's played him. But away from that, as I mentioned earlier on in the episode, that they did reshoots and things like this, when it came to doing it again, the studio decided that they thought that he was too bulky to play Michael Myers, so they replaced him with another guy called A. Michael Lerner, who is listed as additional Shape, and all of a sudden he's thinner and moves completely differently to what we've seen with Bad Back at the beginning.
It doesn't even need to be said what a dumb idea that is.
It's actually left me speechless, just saying it out loud.
It's just terrible decisions all around with the
Yeah.
with the decision makers in this.
I'll carry on in somewhat with the timeline. So Dr. Loomis is working, well, not working, but he's retired now. And there's this guy called Dr. Wynn who's trying to get him back into teaching or something like this, and he's not having any of it. And it turns out that it's Dr. Wynn who is the man in black. And
he's the head of the cult.
yeah, he's the head of the cult, and they say some quite silly dialogue around him, things like this. Trying to see where I wrote it. Anyway, yeah. What did you think about the Man in Black? And trying to explain him, because in number 5, he's just there, and there's literally no explanation for it whatsoever. Kidnaps.
No, well, I feel like in this film.
So in this one, I tried to make it make sense.
There made no sense for me of like when and why Michael would show up, what the cult's relationship exactly was with him, and what happened with Danny and the voices. Why has Danny got the same thing? If he was marked, then why, shouldn't we know that? Or, I don't know. There's more. I'm just so baffled by everything.
He describes Michael Myers and what he has inside him as pure, uncorrupted, ancient. So it's little things like this where Daniel Farrens, he deserves credit because there are some just little specks of kind of like brilliance in the script, whether it be a little bit of dialogue like that, just that, 3 words, or just his whole thing. So he's been brought in and be said, right, you've got to solve the Man in Black. So he's got this whole ritual thing, and he's not only that with Dr. Wynn. Dr. Wynn is in the first one, so he's brought it all the way back to him while trying to tie in 2, 4, and 5, and not only that, then give it kind of a richer backstory of which to get into, which then you can continue the series with, and finding out that Michael Myers through this is a supernatural being who is controlled by a cult and all this, and the way that some of the ways that the cult is shot, things like that, I just really enjoyed that whole thing. I think it's very imaginative, and it must have been really hard to come up with a way to explain certain things, and he definitely went into a lot. He worked hard on it, basically.
Well, the biggest problem with this,
and there were some bits where I just wish that they would have just done his original script rather than have it rewritten 11 times, and we probably would have got an amazing movie, and it would have moved. So basically, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I started to really think about it, and after this, you just get, apart from Halloween H2O and Resurrection, Halloween H2O retcons this movie anyway, and only follows from number 2. And then after that, you just get 2 new lots of reboots, the Rob Zombie ones and the more recent trilogy. And I don't need that. I don't need, especially 2 reboots of it in such a short space of time. I now have somewhat of an idea how you could go back, use the Ritual of Thorn, use also Josh Hartnett's character from H2O, possibly Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode as well, bring the whole thing together, bring the Man in Black back, and to have a real supernatural style Michael Myers Halloween movie. But enough of that, I've just got quite a good idea for it, in my opinion. So I really enjoyed what he did with that, basically. So I'm really trying to say I do enjoy his imagination.
Yeah. I mean,
because if you're going to try and explain stuff, you might as well go with the whole hog, and make it really intriguing. Otherwise, just keep it like number 1 and have no explanation as to why he's killed his sister and why he goes on this killing spree and why he's unstoppable.
If you're going to give something an explanation, it has to 100% fit with everything. Otherwise, it's just going to throw people off.
Imagine putting all that work into a script with a whole new backstory of where you can take the movie, and then it just gets rewritten 11 times and just taken apart. And you get a director who's taken over your script who doesn't even respect the franchise, the series as it is, and results kind of speak for themselves. But as I said, I still like a lot about this movie. I like a lot of the cinematography. I like a lot of the lighting. I love all of the orange lamps and the candle light that you get in this movie. A lot of the blues that you get in this movie. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. It's just what's going on screen is just too hard to follow, way too hard to follow, and all over the place. And if there's problems with the way that Michael Myers is acting and performing, then that takes away from him supposedly being supernatural. He should be even more, still and measured if we know this about him than what he was in the first one as just a human being. What do we make of, so there's kind of like comedy-ish moments. You've got the guy from the radio station who comes to Haddonfield, because Haddonfield has banned Halloween for like the past 6 years or something like since 1989, Halloween's been banned in Haddonfield because of the whole Michael Myers history, and this is the year they're going to bring it back. And they have this kind of party in the middle. It's not the woods, but open green area in town in Haddonfield. And yeah, you've got the DJ who's presenting the whole thing, and he gets Tim and Beth. Tim is part of the Strode family, and Beth is his girlfriend. And she starts talking about how Tim lives in the Myers household and things like this, and she's getting really like emphatic about it. And the radio DJ turns to Tim and says something along the lines of, "Whoa, she's a real firecracker. I bet she wears crotchless panties and barks like a dog in the sack." And turns to her and says, "How do you feel, baby? You want to do that?" And she kind of just shrugs it off and carries on talking about how Tim lives in the Myers household now. But just more absurdity.
That whole character felt tacked on again, just so that there was someone they could call into or something. It just didn't need to be there. This film is already so complicated to try and understand where they're going with it. You don't need to keep adding all these random characters. And it was a weird vibe change as well, because as I said at the start, I didn't like that they made it so serious given what was going on with everything. But then you've got characters like him, this sleazeball
Barry Sims,
supposed comedian character.
Yeah, Barry Sims, the radio DJ.
And again, that just... I'm not saying that doesn't exist and it's not realistic, but equally it just... The tone was bizarre.
Barry Sims then gets his comeuppance. He is walking away from this little interaction. He's on the phone with his agent saying he can't believe he's doing this line of work, how it's beneath him. And he goes to find his van, and he's talking about Michael Myers on the phone, and then he calls Michael Myers a pussy. Something she never do, because Michael Myers pops out the back of the van, kills him, wraps him up in fairy lights and puts him in a tree. And then he drips all over a little girl who was standing under the tree. All blood drips all over her. Again, some nice stuff in
that
this.
That was cool.
Yeah.
But again, with this, I didn't understand all the people that Michael was killing off. I was like...
Well,
it seems a bit random.
It goes back to the whole constellation druid thing.
But isn't the whole point that he's just supposed to be killing his family?
Yeah.
So that everyone else is safe?
Well, he's got to kill his whole family as the blood sacrifice.
Yeah.
He's got to get to the end of it, yeah.
The reason with the blood sacrifice, though, is to keep him from killing other people. So I'm like, well, it's clearly not working, is it?
I've got to ask just when it comes into my head, the whole Ritual of Thorn, supernatural element, Michael Myers has a knife and wears a mask and a boiler suit. So is he a vision created by the Ritual of Thorn, or is this just what Michael Myers had decided, this is me evil, or is that...
No, well, from what I'm...
The Ritual of Thorn's representation of physical evil.
But they were also... This, again, doesn't really make sense, because you keep saying, we know now he's a supernatural being, but equally, if they're suggesting then that Kara's son, Danny, is going to be the next one, so to speak, he's a regular boy. We see that. He's just got these, thoughts telling him to do something. And also, I'd never got the
Man in Black telling him to do it as well,
before this movie that Michael Myers wasn't just a crazy person, but a person. And maybe he's been taken over physically by some demon being then, and that's the aspect of the cult. But that doesn't really account for him being physically untouchable.
I'm just asking though, do you think that was Michael Myers' personal choice, that I'm going to kill people with a knife and wear this mask, or is that something that has been dreamt up by the Thorn?
No, I reckon he chose it.
So you have personal choice even though you're being controlled by them. Okay, I just wanted to know that. It's just a question that came to me because I started seeing Michael...
Because he chooses his weapons for every kill as well.
Which is mostly a knife, for the most part. But he's at points we see...
Well, there's also randomly a machete in the hospital. Is that a common...
Well, they know Michael's going to show up at some point, so he needs something to kill people off with in a hospital. There are shots of Michael Myers standing next to robed cult leaders from the Ritual of Thorn around the altar with all the candlelight and all this, and I found that to be quite a striking vision. That's what started getting my mind going about, possibly writing a movie which involves the whole Thorn aspect and the supernatural aspect. It was just seeing the aspect of the Halloween sex, the curse of Michael Myers.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, it was that vision of seeing him there at the altar, just very still, and he's part of the ceremony. It was just it woke something. I was like, this is so strange. This is so bizarre.
For it to work, you'd have to do what I imagine the original writer did, which is think of every single
John Carpenter.
explanation and... No, not John Carpenter. The original writer of this
Oh,
one.
number 6, right? I
Yeah.
thought you meant of the original movie. Yeah.
No,
Michael Farren's.
Michael Farren. And think of all the explanations, because all the details have to be cohesive and they have to tie...
Daniel Farren's.
Daniel...
I've got Michael on the mind.
my
Michael
God.
Myers.
They have to tie
Jamie Lynn
everything
Spears.
in, and they also have to be, like, with this one, it keeps throwing you off because nothing's consistent. If there's no consistency, then how can you buy into it?
What do you make of the theory that the baby that Kara has is Michael's, rather than just being a random member of the ritual
Not
form?
that Kara has, that the...
Sorry, that
Jamie Lloyd
has. Too many people in this movie. Just too many people.
Yeah, I agree. I really don't picture Michael Myers as the type to be able to come.
But he,
So...
so you're saying that Michael Myers is asexual?
Yeah. Like,
But-
I don't imagine him in the act of sex.
But if he-
And then the only other option would be someone manually extracting the semen, but I just don't see him as that type.
Extracting the semen wasn't the kind of thing I expected to hear when we were going to do a Halloween movie review, but you've just reminded me of something else. This is the only movie, and I'm sure it must be the only movie where anything close to this is uttered. Got Dr. Loomis and Dr. Wynn, they're in hospital, and this other doctor comes out of a room and he has a sample with him in a syringe, I believe, or at least a little test tube. And if I remember correctly, it's from Jamie Lloyd, her death scene, and he
On the autopsy.
yeah, and the camera goes close on the tube, and he says, "placenta fluid," and then we just see
It was
this.
so ham-handed, again, the way it was done. It's like, oh yes, we believe she must have had a baby less than 24 hours ago. It was the way it was done and the way it was written and presented. It's not the actual facts, because they are the facts, but it's, oh my god, just so many questions.
I guess this must be what doctors talk about. They all meet up in the hospital, and one just comes out, and the specimen that he has from the death scene, of course, it's...
He had to bring it with him as well. He couldn't
Yeah,
just tell
and the
them.
camera had to go really close on it as well while he says it. Placenta fluid. It's just so we know what we're looking at here and what we've just heard. The radio phone-in show, which is called Back Talk, which we're introduced to early in the movie.
Yeah.
As we said, who's listening to it? Tommy Doyle, Dr. Loomis, and some others. And they're talking about Michael Myers and how he's been gone, he's not been seen. And someone at some point on the radio phone-in says that he's been blasted into space. And someone replies along the lines of, "Michael Myers in space, like, next, don't want to hear it." This was apparently a jab at Dimension producing at the same time Hellraiser 4 Bloodline, and they took $1 million of the budget from Halloween and gave it to Bloodline, and obviously they send Pinhead to space in that movie, so that's them kind of touching on the absurdity of sending any horror character into space, really.
You can only really get away with that if your movie's any good. So
That also shows you that was clearly written during production, because obviously Farrens wouldn't have known.
and he wouldn't have
Any
put
of
that in
that.
anyway because it's not to do with
No.
the backstory. So
Still, just I enjoy just the general politics backstory of why that's put in there, and it's all because of Hellraiser Bloodline and Pinhead going into space. There's a random bit towards the end of the movie where Paul Rudd's walking through a corridor hallway and he comes across just a bit of a nutty woman who says some crazy dialogue, and she's got this
it's just-
blood symbol on her stomach. Or
Again, yeah. This is when he's trying to save Kara. We mentioned this bit before when he's knocking down the door. So it's in that scene. And yeah, he's going to find her, and it seems that there's a bunch of people locked into these doors, and I don't know if they're there as like, here, Michael, go ahead and kill them or something. Because, as you said, this creepy lady who turns up. Also, by the way, I thought that moment was terrible. Just cut it. She's been stabbed or whatever, so she falls down dead at the end of it. And I was like, well, who is she and why is she there and why is she being stabbed, and was she part of the cult maybe, or was she a sacrifice?
it's a thinker, like most of this
but
movie.
a useless one. There's no point to it.
How about
What does that moment add to the film?
when Paul Rudd he gets the baby, he goes and collects the baby, goes to the hospital and just so happens to run into Dr. Loomis and is like, oh, it's me, Tommy Doyle, from when Michael Myers first came about. How did you like that? Do you like how that was just brought about so naturally?
I love that because it was exactly as natural as Rudd continuing to take care of this less than 24-hour-old baby.
He also names the baby Stephen.
Yeah. But also this hospital, so he's taking the baby to the hospital because he thinks there might be a problem with it, and then as soon as he sees like some confrontation, he just runs away with it. I was like, well, surely if by the time the security got to you and you said, well, this baby's in need of a doctor, then they're not going to chuck you out with your baby. Maybe they'll chuck him out and just take care of the baby. But either way, does the baby need help or not?
Again, you just got to gloss over it.
He only took the baby to the hospital because, somehow he knew Loomis would be there. Because that's how they meet.
I just remember something else on the phone in as well. I think it's the first person to call in, a lady, a very horny lady, and she starts going on about Michael Myers. She says, he's so untamed, so uninhibited, everything I wanted in a man. I'm in love. I want to know what's behind the mask. What do you think about that? A lady being in love with the mysterious Michael Myers. Everything that she ever wanted in a man.
Well, there are crazy people out there who are ready to love other crazy people. So I'm not surprised. And it seems like the most obvious way to go for a call-in for that kind of thing. I mean, you get all these, people in jail for heinous crimes getting good admirers.
Something else we get in this movie is very Scream-like, is menacing phone calls. Deborah, before she's off, she gets menacing phone calls from,
What was that
Vaughn.
about as well?
We want your baby.
Are you telling me that Michael
Give us the child.
started talking, or was that all supposed to be Wynn? Oh my gosh. I feel like we need to move on from this film before my brain just
I do
melts.
normally say that I like movies with unanswered questions. This one just maybe has a few too many.
Not this many. I never really like it anyway. I like to have an idea. Even if it's just clues. It doesn't have to be on-the-nose answers. But I have to be able to think about it and say, oh yeah, that could be it. Not just, well, that doesn't make any sense, does it?
So it's just... I could go on for even... Maybe we do like another special number 6 just to go through the whole thing. But I feel I should just end it by repeating, I bet she wears crotchless panties and acts like a dog. So after all that, it's time to get on to the less confusing, in a way, but slightly more confusing in another way, Halloween Resurrection, which is the first one we watched this week. I insisted upon it.
Well,
we're going to be doing a live stream about it.
For 6. So we absolutely got that with this one. And before we even get into anything else, just as I said that the physicality of Michael was terrible in 6, what the hell was going on with his mask in Resurrection?
Well, we didn't even get into the mask in Curse either. They said it kind of looked a bit like plasticine now and again. People kind of liked it, but also said it looked like the mask was too big for his head. That's because of the change of actor.
But it looks like the way they've sculpted it, they've almost put too much detail into everything. And he has like a little stub nose in Resurrection. And I couldn't...
Michael Myers in Halloween Resurrection looks like he's had a blow dry. And I imagine because of his blow-dried hair, that beneath the mask, he's got pearly whites, he's got his eyebrows done, he's gone the whole shebang, because why is his hair like that otherwise? And I'll also wonder, is he getting it done in the salon, or is he at home putting product in it and then blow-drying it himself and then applying the mask? His hair was much more messy in Halloween 6, and you don't notice it, because
the people making these
why would
masks,
Michael Myers do his hair?
I do wonder if the people making these masks have been told
Is it the ritual of Thorn insisting that he clean up his act physically?
I've been told to do a replica of, the original, and this is just as close as that personal team can get, or if they've been told, do your own thing with it. Because either way, terrible decision or execution.
Just one of the things that makes this movie so great in its own way. So great that Jamie Lee Curtis called this movie a joke. John Carpenter said that this movie made him cringe. So there's the creator and the original Halloween Scream Queen, and what they think about it. Also, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis is in this movie, and she was contractually obliged to be in it, because in order to get Halloween H20 made, Halloween H2O, which is what she wanted, she wanted some kind of end to the saga in a satisfactory way. But yeah, we'll do that for you as long as we can use you in this. So she originally was only contracted to be in it for 30 seconds, but she wanted her character killed off so she didn't have to return. So instead it went from 30 seconds to her being in the movie for, say, let's just say 6 minutes for argument's sake, right? And the producers of the movie came out and said, oh yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, she read the script and she was like, oh, there's no way I can only be in this movie for 30 seconds. I've got to be in it for, much longer because I just love the script. And classic producer move, selling the movie, spinning some lies as to why she's in the movie for longer than just the contracted 30 seconds.
That whole scene with her in it was awful.
The demise of Laurie in this movie is laughable. The whole thing is laughable.
What they've done to her as well is
what they've done to her
terrible.
is just I don't like what they've done to her in this, and I also don't like what they've done with her character in the more recent trilogy. I absolutely hate what they did with her in that. The perfect ending for Laurie was Halloween H2O, where she decapitates Michael. And in this movie it's explained that no, she didn't actually decapitate Michael Myers at the end of Halloween H20. It was some random paramedic or something that Michael Myers had switched clothes with. And now she's traumatized because she's decapitated just an innocent person, so she's locked up in an insane asylum. And of course it's Halloween night. Michael Myers is, for one more time, supposedly, coming to get her. And he does get his way. He does manage to kill her this time, but not before Laurie gives him a kiss goodbye and says, "I see you in hell, Michael. I see you in hell."
The whole thing was so unnecessary, I guess, because of the contract thing. But just don't insist on her being in it. Just do it for her anyway. She's given you enough. Unbelievable.
In the insane asylum, there's an inmate who likes to wear horror-style masks, wearing a clown mask.
He's
It's
a big
John Wayne Gacy.
Fan of the
he knows about serial killers. He knows their stats, so to speak. He knows how many kills, what year they were born, this kind of stuff. So he's kind of rambling through this kind of thing when we first see him, when he's talking to his two security guards and things, and all of a sudden, in real life in the movie, he sees Michael Myers come down the corridor and he starts rattling off the Michael Myers stats while Michael Myers then starts walking down the corridor slowly, lit perfectly with his blow-drying Golden Girls hair salon
bit of
styling.
Bee Gees on in the background.
Yeah. After we then offed Jamie Lee Curtis, we are introduced to the company of Dangertainment, ran by the one and only, even though we're getting money, you can give me some more, Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes. I love Busta Rhymes. I'm a fan of Busta Rhymes.
Who's like duo in this whole shenanigan business is Tyra Banks.
Your favourite. What's the TV show that you loved?
America's Next
Top Model. Do you know what? Tyra Banks isn't really given much to do in this movie, is she? Could just be anybody.
The two of them should be enough, really, to warn you what kind of film you're getting into. That says it all, doesn't it?
Well,
a rapper and a model.
Yeah, but we're coming off the back of LL Cool J being in Halloween H20, and I love LL Cool J as Ronnie.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we get into that.
So now we've got rapper versus rapper, because now we've got Busta Rhymes, the head of Dangertainment, which their new program is. Do you need to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, but my point is it's not just a rapper, because sometimes rappers can do good jobs, I guess, but you've got a rapper and a model. I don't care what you say, that should be enough to tell you everything.
And this is some of the things what make the movie very enjoyable and fantastical for me, because when I was growing up and Halloween H20 came out, this was like the big reboot. This was like my Halloween movie, where I was of age to take notice of it. I was like, oh wow, it's way too young to see it, but still, this is the new Halloween movie. And when I saw it, I was blown away. I loved Halloween H20. I still love Halloween H20. I think it's in probably the top 3 of the entire series. So when Halloween Resurrection was then announced a few years later, I was like, oh cool, there's going to be a follow-up to Halloween H20. And what I got, I was like, what has happened to the good name of horror? What has happened to the good name of Halloween?
From that film to that film, my God, yeah. We were not led to expect it.
I love it now for its just ineptitude, but I was thoroughly peeved when I was a youngster and I saw this.
His face, he really was peeved.
Yeah, I was mad at this movie. I wanted a serious Halloween movie.
Yes.
Instead we got this, and not only do we get Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks, we also get your favourite cast member from American Pie, Thomas Ian Nicholas as Bill, and like I said, I had to. I'm so sorry when he passed in this movie. I know it must have been hard for you to see Thomas Ian Nicholas die on screen. Of course, he's Kevin Myers in the American Pie, the superb American Pie franchise.
I couldn't stand the found footage aspect of this, by the way.
This is the found footage Michael Myers movie.
It was annoying.
Tells you of its time. What must have come out recently and been successful? Oh, found footage. Let's just integrate some of this into Halloween.
Why were there two situations where these kids have been chosen? There was a guy and a girl, and a guy and a girl going off to like explore different areas, and both of them, the guy comes onto the girl and is like, you can't have this, and then within 10 minutes the girl's like, ooh, please take me now. It was weird.
Yeah, we got Donna, who I think was the one who was like, please take me. The one that got rejected at one point was the character Donna, and we got Jen, who was the one who's trying to act really sexual and stuff like that, and the American Pie guy was egging her on, so to speak. And we also got a character Rudy, who was pretty annoying as well. And Bianca Kalick from our favourite Rules of Engagement TV show. She's pretty much the lead in this, I'd say. She's the final girl, isn't she? And she's the final girl, even though apparently she can't scream. So all of her screams in this movie is ADR from somebody else.
Seriously?
Yeah, so she's not really a scream queen.
How weird.
Yeah, but when you consider the other casting, I probably just didn't care.
Honestly, it's difficult for me, or apparently, from what I've heard other people say, to remember anything beyond just Busta Rhymes.
Well, I was trying to
No, you
save
can't.
that.
We have to go straight into that because it's honestly probably the only thing that really sticks in my mind from this movie.
Let's get in the history of the Halloween series. Michael Myers has been shot off a balcony, so riddled with bullets. In number 2, he's blown up. He's shot in both eyeballs. In the previous movie, he's been decapitated, although not really. It was just some doctor guy dressed up as Michael Myers, and burnt. So forth. He's been through a lot, Michael Myers, and he's survived it all. He's made of sterner stuff. But then, Busta Rhymes, aka Ronnie.
I think so. Sounds right. Freddie Harris, not Ronnie. So Freddie, aka Busta Rhymes, he's had enough of Michael Myers and his killing ways and he's ruining his production. So he's like, yo! What does he bust out? Some kung fu.
And Michael Myers he doesn't know what's hit him. What is being shot in the face at point blank range compared to having your ass whooped kung fu style by Busta Rhymes?
I am quite impressed. Busta Rhymes does a much better job of his kickboxing style than some other actors we've seen.
Freddie, aka Busta Rhymes, more towards the beginning of this movie, he's sitting in his apartment and he's watching some kung fu on TV and he's really enjoying. He's really into it. And Busta Rhymes in his performance is showing how much his character loves kung fu. And then he answers the door to Bianca Kalick's character, and he has to kind of talk her around into staying into this forthcoming production in the Michael Myers house where they're supposed to explore it for people to live stream to watch. Mm-hmm. And the way that he convinces her and the little actions that he does it's pure cinema. Busta Rhymes is pure cinema.
What's ironic...
We also get Busta Rhymes, he philosophizes in this movie, but yeah, carry on.
He philosophizizes. What's ironic is that the two...
Michael Myers ain't no sound bite.
The two least successful, or I don't know, the least acty performances, so least successful acting, but just, the model and the rapper, are still the best characters in the whole thing and the best performances because, like with Bianca, for example, her acting is great, apart from the fact she can't scream, that's a shame, but I just didn't like the character. I didn't like any of the characters.
No, this is the kind of movie where you just want Michael Myers
Everyone kind of sucks.
Just destroy everybody.
And you kind of just want Busta Rhymes to survive.
Yeah, I guess I did want Busta Rhymes to survive somewhat, and yeah,
he's not been painted as a nice guy, but it's just the most entertaining part of the movie.
Is he?
So you want to keep him alive.
What, you're saying he's a horrible? Is
no,
Freddie the character?
He's like a bad guy either.
He's just a typical TV producer.
Yeah,
he's kind of evil.
He's trying to trick the audience.
Anything for the show.
Stuff. Yeah, exactly.
So
he's not like...
We got into that his company, Dangertainment, is they're hooking up a bunch of well, our main characters with cameras, and they're going to walk around the long abandoned Myers house to live stream to show off, you know, what's in the house. But it's all rigged, it's all fake. So Dangertainment, Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks they've got a fake Michael Myers walking around in the house. At one point, Busta Rhymes is Michael Myers, and he bumps into the real Michael Myers in the house, thinking that it's the other stunt Michael Myers. And Busta Rhymes removes his mask and he starts berating the real Michael Myers, saying, "What the hell are you doing here? You know it's my shift. You gotta be out of sight. If there are 2 Michael Myers in the house, the whole thing goes to pot." He doesn't actually say go to pot, but you get my drift. And you've got Michael Myers just standing there with his blow-dried hair.
Just taking it.
Just standing still and just watching Busta Rhymes, you know, tear a new arsehole into Michael Myers, berating him.
So
again,
even
pure
Michael
cinema,
Myers can
pure
be
cinema.
stunned.
Seeing Busta Rhymes in a Michael Myers outfit and taking the mask off was somewhat disconcerting. And
But
again,
seeing him do perfect kung fu kicks
the
was
fact that
not.
Michael Myers he took this on board. He was like, "Oh, actually, yeah, I guess the live stream's only just got started, so I think I'll wander off for a minute, listen to what Buster said, and I'll come and do my thing later on." You know, I can't off everybody straight away because at this point he's already killed someone with a tripod. I think that was the first kill actually. Outside of Jamie Curtis
when he's
and
setting
the
up the
security
cameras
guards.
and Tyra's like, "Oh, great shot." But at least I think the reason, because after we watched this, we did watch it first, but I was convinced, well, this is going to have to be third place. Surely nothing is going to go below this. But I will give it that. What bugged me the most about number 6, like I've said multiple times now, is that it took itself seriously and yet there was no consistency. Whereas at least with this one, it was so dumb that you can enjoy it for that. And even though it was, I thought it was pretty poor, Johnny. I know you love it. I thought it was not great, but I can still enjoy the dumbness at least.
You've put this in second place, so I'm once put it in last place. So you're you know, on camera saying you love this movie out of these 3 more than I do.
That's not exactly how it works.
I think we're saying the same thing. So what do you make then? Did you get into the found footage aspect of it?
I didn't get into it. I just said I don't.
What do you make of taking a real iconic horror series, a real iconic horror character, and inserting other genre of horror into the slasher?
I think there's a certain point in a franchise where you've kind of drained it for everything you can get. So now the only option is to go comedic. And we love a lot of those movies.
Yeah.
They can be really dumb and just so entertaining. But I also feel like you have to... They're the kind of films that grow on you over time. Because when you're jumping from something like H20 to Resurrection, as you said at the time, it's such a big difference and it's not what you've been used to, so you have to have time to like take it on as a completely new thing, charming in its own way, I think. But found footage again, back to that. I didn't even hate the concept. I actually think it's quite a cool idea to go to this the old abandoned Michael Myers house and have kids like live streaming for some TV show.
You're right, it's not a bad idea.
I think it's quite cool, but they could have just as easily, in my opinion, done it without using any of the found footage style shots. They could have just shot it as a regular film with them. Like, we know...
So saying it's a gimmick.
We know that they're live streaming because we get the scenes at the other house where the guy and all the house party people start infiltrating and watching this live stream as it's going on.
Yeah, I think he calls himself Deckard. Deckard is talking to Bianca Kalic's character. Yeah. He's a teen. He's probably like
instant messaging.
Yeah, the instant messaging because it's the future. And yeah, he ends up he has to direct her around the house when they work out that Michael Myers really is in the house, and he's got to live.
He's not the most useful in that situation.
No, he's probably because he's got a boner the whole time. You know, him and his friend go to this party, by the way, as John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction. This is like the American Pie style also Halloween movie.
Bizarre.
Has that whole thing. Do you think that a found footage edge could be inserted into any other horror franchise character that you know off the top of your head?
I think it would fit seriously well with Ghostface because I feel like that kind of goes with the whole character of he doesn't exactly want to hide his crimes, does he?
No, he's a showman.
Exactly. So I think he could have a GoPro or something.
Okay. And what about if you could see any rapper kung fu fight any horror icon which isn't Busta Rhymes against Michael Myers, who would it be? Who would you like to see have a face-off? I won't go into it because we've got to take it live on Sunday. But my pick would be Pinhead versus Flavor Flav.
I think I would take Eminem versus Chucky.
Eminem versus Chucky.
Yeah.
It's
just off the top of my head.
How
I think
about?
That would be funny.
I don't know. I guess he's not a rapper. He's just an actor. I'm gonna scrap that one.
Let's move on anyway. We're gonna cover this in the live.
So does this movie suck or does it rule? You can only pick one.
It sucks.
Does it rule?
Maybe in like 20 years' time, I'll love it.
It's already been out for 20 years. You can't give it 40
years.
It
hasn't been in my life for long enough. I've watched it
marinate.
maximum twice, and no, it's not there
They've got the commentary on the disc as well, so we can watch the commentary, listen to the commentary, should I say?
That should be an interesting watch.
Yeah. What do you make of just the name Dangertainment? Do you think a lot of thinking went into
Surely not
Dangertainment, because it's
entertainment, very well.
but it's dangerous, so it's Dangertainment.
It's dumb. There's not much more to be said. It's just so, but I guess it kind of fits with the characters.
The guy that directed this movie also directed number 2, and the studio sent in John Carpenter in number 2 to do reshoots because it wasn't up to par. Can you see possibly why his stuff wasn't up to par in the original cut of Halloween 2, which is a movie that I love Halloween 2.
Well, it's hard to say because, as I said, a lot of it was found footage. So, I mean, how much can he have to do with that?
I think what this movie's missing also is a shot of the camera below Michael Myers' face, and we're looking up his nostrils for his mask and snot comes out of his nose, which is a prerequisite for found footage, is snotty noses while people are, I just want to see some, I want to see some of the tropes, more of the tropes of found footage. If you're going to inject it into Michael, then just go whole hog. But you already have Busta Rhymes berating Michael Myers and Michael Myers walking away, and then you have, he's not listening, so Busta Rhymes has to kick his ass with his kung fu fighting. Of course, Michael can't handle this. Would you like to see the writers of this, Larry Brand with the story and screenplay, and Sean Hood with the screenplay? Would you just rush to see anything else that these two guys have come up with?
No.
No, why not?
Well, beyond the pure concept of it, the rest of this movie.
The thing is that in their pictures, Larry Brand and Sean Hood, they're both wearing glasses, so that would indicate that they're smarter than the average guy, because as we all know, people with glasses are smarter than people without glasses. This is common knowledge.
Maybe I should put some glasses on you.
And yet they came up with this. They came up with this. What kind of meeting do you think was going on? How do you think the meeting was going before someone said, actually, how about Freddy, aka Busta Rhymes? I've got an idea, by the way. The character of Freddy, how about Busta Rhymes plays him? And he kung fu's Michael Myers all over his own house.
Busta Rhymes would have been more of an executive decision. They thought LL did such a great job. Let's bring in
LL has gone on to have a very fruitful career in acting. He's also in another.
Not debating that.
He's also another personal favourite, called Deep Blue Sea, and I think he's gone through like a 12 seasons now of NCIS Los Angeles. But so he's gone on, whereas Busta Rhymes has not gone on.
No, I know.
To have.
But this is what we say.
Career.
Executives don't always make smart choices, do they? So.
I don't know about that, Karen. I mean, I think they're always making sane, rational decisions, much like we discussed in Halloween 6.
Mm-hmm.
So would you watch this movie again? Tonight. Tonight!
With commentary.
With commentary only.
Maybe they'll add to it.
Trick or treat, motherfucker! Another classic Buster moment. He says that to Michael Myers. What do you think about that there?
It's the same as all the other things. Like, the things that he does, like berating him and saying those lines, they're kind of entertaining, but they're so not unique.
And at the end, when the stream's all gone to hell because Michael Myers has gone around murdering everybody, and the press turn up, and they stick their microphones in Bianca Kalick and Busta Rhymes' face, and they ask about Michael Myers, and then we get Buster philosophizing, and he says, "Michael Myers ain't no sound bite. He's an indestructible killing machine that won't..." And he just goes on for quite a while, being very, very thespianish, very serious.
Maybe he wrote that in for himself.
This is acting. You know, he's done enjoyment. I'm watching Kung Fu, I'm enjoying this. Then he's done, you know, pep talk. Bianca Kate's knocking on my door, doesn't want to do my show, I'm going to pep talk. I've won her around. Now I'm Kung Fu. Now I'm berating Michael Myers. Now I've come to the end of this journey and I'm philosophizing. I'm deep thinking about this movie, and I could tell the difference in thought process in every scene that he was doing. I was like, yes, this is rich. This is
very
been thought
glad
about.
for you.
So let's bring Freddy back in the next installment of Halloween, and maybe he could, maybe at this point now, because you know he's learnt to drive inexplicably, Michael Myers. Maybe he's gone away since Resurrection, and he's met like Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. And now he's got the Kung Fu skills. And now he's going to come back for one more mortal showdown with Busta Rhymes. Kung Fu to the end. Would Michael Myers like be silent, or would he like yo as well as Busta Rhymes? And also, would Michael Myers just stand still, or would he just give it, you know, I'm giving the choppy hands behind the camera here. And would he like kind of like put out his hand and be like, come. You know, that's a classic Kung Fu stance.
He'd have to be silent, but yeah, he could definitely do that one.
So we just let Buster do all the talking.
But he's mostly still, and then he just like does a few parries and blocks, and then strikes.
See, this thing was writing itself already. So what I'm saying is, yeah, I guess now we scrap my ritual.
It's like Mortal Kombat with
or
Michael Myers.
We don't scrap my ritual
and
thorn
Busta
idea.
Rhymes.
What I do is I just bring in the whole Michael Myers Kung Fu edge to the ritual thorn
God.
and Man in Black, and just bring them all together. I think that's something that a lot of people would want to see. So better get on with Halloween H20 quickly so I can get to writing this.
Yeah.
So from the insanity of Halloween 6 and Halloween Resurrection, we move on to the much more sane and logical number 1 Halloween H2O. Wasser. Everyone called it H2O.
H20, yes. It's the best quality film of the 3, I would start by saying.
This one retcons everything after number 2. So forget what you've just seen. In Halloween 6, this has nothing to do with that.
Clearly.
Even though it's only 3 years afterwards, 95 to 98.
So in this storyline, Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and she's the headmistress of a posh private school, as she herself calls it. And she has a son.
Hillcrest Academy.
Hillcrest Academy. She has a son who's 17, played by the
Introducing the one and only Josh Hartnett, who plays John.
Yeah, and unlike Paul Rudd's introduction, I feel like this introduction was very true to form of what we end up getting from him throughout his career.
It's very good in this, even though his character sometimes is annoying when he's arguing with his mum. But yeah, fan of Josh Hartnett, what can I say, as well as this.
Yes.
He was in, straight after this, he was in The Faculty.
He's,
which
again,
is your
one of
personal
those that's
favourite.
very easy to watch, I find. He gives you very similar performances, but it's a good performance, so...
Yeah, and he also did 30 Days of Night, which is another great horror movie, vampire movie. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was the lead in the Penny Dreadful TV show, which was pretty good when I was watching that. In fact, they got Penny Dreadful Day of the Dead, which is very fitting, since what you were made up as. So yeah, Josh Hartnett, Jamie Lee Curtis. We also get Michelle Williams, 5 times Oscar nominated Michelle Williams, I might add. She plays Molly, who's John's girlfriend, so Josh Hartnett's girlfriend.
Really? She's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we also get their best friends, essentially, who are Charlie and Sarah, and that rounds off kind of the main 4, along with his mum. And there's also Adam Arkins in this movie.
Is that the Jamie Lee Curtis love interest guy? Okay.
Yeah, he's like the school counsellor. and he's also in Sons of Anarchy. I know you haven't seen that, but great show, and he's in that. He's in loads of other stuff, and again, you always get, you know, what you're going to get from him. Highly professional. He suited this role down to the ground.
And just really, really briefly, because we actually didn't do this for the other two, but the storyline in this one, I guess, is the kids of this private school that Laurie is running, although she doesn't go by that name anymore.
She's Miss Tate.
Supposed to go out on some camping trip, and after some going back and forth, all the kids have gotten permission, but these 4 characters we've just introduced have decided to stay at the school premises and have a sort of Halloween party of their own.
Yeah, well, you missed out kind of the backstory of Laurie, of that she is still tormented 20 years later of what has happened to her in the first 2 movies, and she's now developed a slight drinking problem.
How would she not be tormented?
Yeah, even though she's got a life together though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
she's a functioning alcoholic.
She's a functioning alcoholic, although she's not a hardcore alcoholic, I'd say. I know they have scenes of her drinking kind of like at lunch when she's on a school day, and she downs a Chardonnay and orders another one very quickly afterwards. And we also see it like quickly getting some frozen vodka before Adam Arkin comes around and sees her. But it never shows her completely out of control.
Not out of control, but
not at all.
It's not as if we ever see her at breakfast, you know, for all we know she's having a glass of vodka with her cereal, but it's not shown to us.
I love Jamie Lee Curtis's performance in this movie.
She is brilliant, yeah. And for once, whereas in a previous episode of I Know What You Watched Last Week, we discussed that we didn't like taking the icon of the first Nightmare on Elm Street, her father, and turning him into an alcoholic in a later instalment. But in this one, I suppose, because we keep saying she's highly functional, I quite liked that little twist. Because, of course, like, how can you not have scars? And apart from that, she's got a life so together that it kind of almost a bit too together. I'm
apart
like, how can you
being divorced, she's divorced as well, and she's got she's obviously raising
although
John.
that kind of makes sense. Like, you have so much emotional baggage and
the
trauma.
deadbeat daddy sends John a very late birthday card in the opening of the movie after she's woken up screaming. So John's obviously been, I don't want to say putting up with this, but he's been living with what Laurie's, his mother, been going through.
And as a mum, she was obviously super protective to the point of maybe being overprotective. That's the point of contention between her and her son the whole time, isn't it?
Obviously, as we said, a lot of actors' names. So Charlie and Sarah are played by Adam Han Bird and Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, and the cast is rounded off nicely by, we've also got Janet Leigh in this movie, who is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, and probably the original Scream Queen, as she's the one that perishes in the shower in Psycho. We've also got, we want to call it kind of a cameo performance from Joseph Gordon-Levitt from Third Rock from the Sun. He's the first guy to go in this movie. He gets ice skate to the face. And of course we have the one and only Ladies Love, LL Cool J. Yeah.
I did love Cool J.
Very nice touch there.
I think that was my absolute favourite sub-story
Do you know what I've done?
The movie.
I remember when we were discussing Busta Rhymes' character in Resurrection, and I said Ronnie. No, it turned out LL Cool J is Ronnie.
That's why, because I was going to say Ronnie sounds way more familiar than Freddie, but okay. Ronnie is a great character. I love the storyline that he's a failing writer,
aspiring
author.
I'd say aspiring.
Well, okay, aspiring. And, you know, he's always on the phone with his wife.
I gotta express myself creatively.
And reading his latest work, and she's his biggest critic and also his greatest fan.
He likes to write love material.
Soft erotica?
Yes, soft erotica. Round melon breasts. Round melon what?
Yeah, she's
immortal line.
So
Ronnie's got a pretty cushy job. You know, he's at his affluent, well-to-do school, which has lovely surroundings, very green, very lush, and he's in this hut with a Spanish-style roof, and he doesn't have to do much but open and close a gate all day.
And until
in the
Michael
meantime,
Myers turned up, I doubt he's ever had to deal with very much danger.
with much of anything. I mean, he's clearly kind of lax at his job because he lets John and Charlie leave for lunch even though they're not allowed out. He opens the gate for them. And
he knows it could cost him his job as well. Yeah. It doesn't end up doing it.
And his missus on the other end of the phone is saying to him, "Don't you get your ass fired." Yeah, she can hear him. Every little thing that he does, she's critiquing.
This is a moment where an overly comedic character and sub-story still works. Because H20 again goes back to the more serious tone. It's supposed to be more believable, I guess.
Yeah, it was Jamie Lee Curtis herself who wanted to get this movie done.
Yeah, but they have plenty of comedy still injected, thanks to LL Cool J and his, I'll get a picture up of whoever played the wife on the end of the line.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually.
Yeah, she did a great job at that tiny just voice cameo.
I don't know if it is Shell. I don't know if we even hear LL Cool J's / Ronnie's wife's name, do we? We probably do.
IMDb it
Yeah.
for the fans.
So after all of these introductions here, we have a direct competition with LL Cool J, musician / rapper, Busta Rhymes, musician / rapper, both artistes, both have their shot at acting. Who do you prefer out of the rappers?
That's such a daft question.
Why is it? It's rapper versus rapper. It'd be dumb not to ask it.
It's obviously ladies' love.
Yeah, I definitely prefer
Clearly.
Ronnie and LL Cool J. What about their music? Whose music do you prefer?
Oh, that I have no idea. I would need far more experience.
When I was thinking about it,
I'm
I
not
was
very
like,
well
I
versed.
definitely prefer Busta Rhymes. But then I started thinking about quite a lot of LL Cool J songs. I was like, maybe it's closer than I'd anticipated.
Maybe we should have a whole evening dedicated to the face-off between the two.
Yeah. They're both great, but yeah, LL Cool J definitely knocks out the park as Ronnie in this. He's such a lovable
great.
character.
Absolutely.
Plays it brilliantly.
And you really are upset when he's in danger and when he eventually dies. Well, actually, you think he dies.
Yeah, you think he dies, but he comes back and that's another
Thank
thing.
goodness for that.
So we've got the whole, as you just said, we think that he's blown away by Mr. Brennan, Adam Arkin's character, school counsellor, but then at the end it turns out the bullet just grazed me, baby. He says that to his wife on the phone, and he says, I'm gonna write a thriller. No, he's done with romance novels, he's going into thrillers.
We all know that Ronnie's gonna go off into the sunset and write a bestseller.
Yeah.
And him and his wife are gonna be happy
So
forever.
you've got a popular character, much like Dewey, for instance, in Scream, where you think he's dead, and then at the last frame he comes, he's alive.
Saves the day.
He's alive and well. And this is very much the Scream, cast off Halloween movie, because this is directly off of Scream and the Scream 2, which were Dimension movies, as was this. So they've got, a new, hip, young cast and a more modern way of playing it, kind of thing. So yeah,
You can
that
even
is
see
direct
it in
from
the way
Scream.
it's shot now that you mention it.
And the reason we have this is because Kevin Williamson co-exec produced this. You've also got Patrick Lussier, who is the editor on Scream 1, 2, 3, 4. He edited this. And there's one that I'm missing, but there's another. Marco Beltrami does the additional music to the theme, which is very nicely done. And Marco Beltrami also does the music for a whole host of movies, but again, Scream. So this is very much brought together by a lot of the people who made Scream. And it definitely has that whole tone and feel to it and look to it. Very slick. It's very nice to look at. Beautiful cinematography. This is just one movie that I can just watch over and over again without really... I can either concentrate or not concentrate on it. And either way, if it's on, I'll always just slink into watching it. It draws me in.
It's a good watch. Cleanly done as well, I think is the word for me. It just feels very clean.
Yeah, the director, Steve Miner's got history. He directed Friday the 13th, Part 2, Part 3, then a movie called Warlock, and a movie called House as well, so he's done lots of horror stuff. What do you make of Josh Hartnett's haircut in this? Because it's kind of all over the place and messy.
He always has this weird haircut though. He's always got this hair coming up the back and stuff. I don't know why they've just chosen to, in every movie, keep
he has the same
look.
style in The Faculty, doesn't he?
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
In this movie, Ronnie, in Halloween H.O., Ronnie even tells him, comb your hair at one point. And his hair is a complete mess and it looks like he's done it himself, but somehow it just works. Imagine going into the barbers
He's a renegade.
And asking for the Hartnett. I'll have the Hartnett, please. And people look at the photo and be like, you sure you want this? I'm not sure everyone can pull it off. We've mentioned the characters of John and Charlie, best buds, and LL Cool J / Ronnie's letting them out for lunch, even though he shouldn't be letting them out of school premises. And they are caught while out by Jamie Lee Curtis. And Charlie's got a bottle of booze, which he's shoplifted.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get found out. And later on, when they're having their little party after not going to Yosemite, they bring out the booze, they're drinking, and it brought me back to, Charlie's obviously, he's off later on in the movie. He's stolen booze. First guy to die, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He steals booze from his neighbour's kitchen after going and checking out her house after she finds it's been broken into by Michael Myers. So yeah, the moral as well as he just holds up the morals of no drinking, no sex. Yeah, and that's because Michael will get you. You're not going to survive with behaviour like that.
I wanted to bring this up the first time you mentioned Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and now you've mentioned him again. I have to bring up that whole relationship between him and the homeowner.
The neighbour, yeah.
I didn't really understand what was going on, because sometimes it seemed like they lived together, and sometimes it seemed like they were just neighbours, and sometimes...
No, they're neighbours.
I didn't understand.
They're definitely neighbours.
I swear he was just like hanging out with her and stuff.
Well, they're neighbours. She's probably known him his whole life. He's 16. She's probably babysat him.
He seemed a lot younger
now and again.
than that to me.
Well, he must have been at least 16 because
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
he does look very young.
Very young.
Jimmy, he plays, and obviously he gets the old ice skate to the face.
Mm-hmm.
His mate gets stabbed. And Marion gets the knife slit across the throat, which is unrealistic every time because it would just slit your skin. But it would obviously be a much harder effect to put the knife behind the esophagus and then thrust it out and burst all of the insides from the neck. So you get the classic just knife across the front of the neck, which works nicely cinematically anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that whole opening. And then you get the inept cops who don't see Michael Myers driving away in the car, which again you brought up. Yeah.
Great driver, Michael.
And then Michael is then off to go and get Laurie Strode for what he thinks is going to be the last time. So he's like stalking out her school and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, somehow he's figured out where she is and who she is, because she's obviously, as I mentioned, not going by her name anymore.
No.
She's taken on an alias,
Mm-hmm.
which we also have a scene of her telling the psychologist who works at the school, her love interest,
Yeah, Will Brennan.
About her true history.
Mm-hmm.
And at first he obviously doesn't even believe her.
I think he's playing some kind of sexy game.
Yeah. So that was quite a fun scene, I thought.
Yeah. Kerry Tate, so I guess John is John Tate. He doesn't know that he's Strode, I would imagine. Or did he only just do that, say, 10 years ago after previously being stalked by Michael Myers again? Who knows? Nothing's mentioned. So I wonder if he's just Tate all along, Mr. Tate. Another nice scream touch, and just a nice touch in general. We mentioned Janet Leigh is in this, Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, who is the shower victim in Psycho.
I mean,
and what
brilliant.
They do with her is fantastic. I mean, first of all, they name her Norma, and she's when we first see her, Adam Arkin and Jamie Lee Curtis and the characters are walking through their secretary office into Jamie Lee Curtis's office, and the secretary is Norma, Janet Leigh, and she's talking about how the pipes in the girls' bathrooms are all clogged, so they call her Norma after Norma, and they're talking about shower problems and stuff like this, just little things that they've put in that.
And they used a bit of the theme as well when she's walking to her car at one point, as in the Psycho theme. And
everyone's entitled to one good scare on Halloween.
It's so fun seeing the interactions between the two characters,
I love seeing them
knowing that
both.
They're a mother and daughter.
Yeah.
And the way that the characters have been written, it plays off the kind of frustrations you can have in those relationships sometimes.
Yeah, it's just a thrill to see them in the same scene together, doing comedic stuff and also slightly more serious stuff. They can do it all.
Yeah.
They're pros.
They were both great.
Yeah. A lot of so the first three people get killed. We mentioned how that happens, and then after that we don't really get many more slayings in Halloween. H2O, we get kind of more just Michael Myers menacing people. So he's driving down kind of country road almost in America, and there's a mother and young daughter that stop off at this rest stop, which is essentially just a shack really in the middle of nowhere. Little girl needs to go to the bathroom, so the mother takes her into this like kind of dilapidated, very darkly lit public toilet.
Just take your toddler to the forest.
Yeah, you're a naturalist, a naturist. So while they're in there, they shut the cubicle doors over, and she's put her purse down on the floor, and then she sees, or hears someone's walked into the bathroom, sees the shadow of the footsteps in front, and Michael Myers swipes her bag.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing we know, we just hear the daughter screaming. So obviously the mum comes running out of her cubicle, and luckily for the little girl and the mother, it's just spiders that are scaring the little girl. Michael Myers is off, and he's switched cars. He's taken their car now, and he's got, I guess, he's taken the keys. He's also got some money if he needs it from the purse, for a snack. Even though apparently,
because he would go up to the till.
Although in the two times he's ever mentioned what his eating habits are, it's just eating dogs. So That seems to be what it seems to be what Michael Myers eats when people want to mention it in scripts.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he's controlled by the ritual of thorn, whatever they
Yeah, I
want
can't
goes.
imagine him like sitting down to a roast dinner or something.
So obviously no one dies in that scene or in that scenario, but it's I think it's a good scene. The first time I saw it, especially, I thought it was a great scene.
Those kind of bathroom scenes always throw me off what's happening because you mentioned how disgusting this bathroom is supposed to be. It's one of those random rest stops on a highway that is used and abused, and there's no toilet paper, nothing like this. But the mum, when she's in the cubicle, she, as you said, she puts her purse on the floor.
Yeah.
And then she like just sits straight down on the loo and she's like making herself comfortable. Like I wouldn't be surprised if she like leant her head on the wall. Like the way they act just takes you completely out of how gross it makes you think. Well, this is a set. They've made it look gross.
So once again, you're more just grossed out by the actions of the thoughtfulness. Who
if you do that, you're an animal. Disgusting.
Yeah.
That is not right.
Yeah, I've also seen characters in movies or TV shows where they just flat out lay down on their front on the public bathroom floor while trying to like retrieve something off the floor they dropped or something. It's like, who lays flat down on the public bathroom floor?
Gross.
Yeah. As we said, mother and daughter survive.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, Michael Myers is on his way to the school and he's stalking out the school, scoping it out, and he pulls his car up to the gates at night while Ronnie is again talking to his missus on the phone about his love stories. Was he writing a novel? Is he writing a screenplay?
Yeah.
And
or maybe I don't know.
yeah, so the car pulls up and just headlights. So he goes out to inspect it, and there's no one in the car, obviously, and we see Michael Myers walk behind LL Cool J as he slinks away in the darkness and manages to get himself into the school. After that, there are only two other people that perish in the movie away from Michael himself.
Two best friends.
Yeah. Sarah and Charlie.
Mm.
Everyone else is alive, so you have to build, a nice tension, kind of dreadful atmosphere to make it work when you're not just giving kill, 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 kill and things like this at this point because we're already so many movies in.
But I feel like that works better with a more serious tone.
Yeah, I really like the way that they shot and had Michael in this movie. So there are bits where he's walking down a hallway in the school and there's a load of windows to his left, and every window is shrouded by a curtain. The wind is blowing in, so the curtains are blowing in as he's walking down.
Like
and
an
he's being
80s
tracked.
music video.
Yeah, very cool. And there's a bit where Laurie is looking for him. I think she's got an axe in her hand, possibly, and she's in the same hallway. And all of a sudden, he lowers himself from the sea. He's been hanging like with one arm. He lowers himself down. That's become like a trope of Halloween movies since then. We see Michael Myers lower himself from the ceiling out of nowhere. And there's a scene where Laurie is hiding underneath the tables in, I think it might be the canteen in the school, and Michael Myers is on top of the table, kind of stalking her. Just really nice aspects of the way that Michael was portrayed and shot and shown in the movie. I thought it was just a vast improvement on a few previous ones. As we said, number 6. So this is directly after this. This is a much better interpretation of Michael Myers, and the mask was much better. His hair wasn't overblown like it is in the next one, although it does have a slight MTV style makeover. His hair in H2O.
It's had a little bit of a blowout.
Yeah, a little bit. What do they call it? Yeah, he's had a glow up. Yeah, for the MTV lifestyle.
Although I always love, because we mentioned the other two deaths, is the couple who are the best friends, and their deaths involve one of those
Charlie and Sarah.
Dumb waiters, they're called, aren't they?
Yeah, dumb
those
waiter.
Sort of mini elevators for food to get it from one level to the next. And we've seen that in a few films, and it always works for me. You've got both like confinement and the unknown aspect of where they're going to be when you arrive there, and
for Sarah, it's not just
classic
confined. She has Charlie dead in the dumbwaiter with her, and there's a particular shot where she's already horrified at Charlie being next to her dead, but then the camera switches and it just looks like Charlie's kind of like his head's vibrating against her shoulder as the dumbwaiter is rising to the top. It's just quite an unnerving vision. We don't really even see Charlie killed again. So say there's a lack of victims in this movie, just not many victims compared to others, and he's kind of killed off screen because he's dropped a corkscrew or something into the grinder, the sink grinder, and he's sticking his hands into it to try and retrieve the corkscrew. Obviously, he eventually gets it, but he turns around and Michael Myers is just standing there looming over him, and Charlie says something silly like, oh, hi, or hello, or, whatever. And then, we know that he's dead. Because then no, he's dead anyway, but then we see him in the dumbwaiter. And you mentioned about dumbwaiter. I also really like when Sarah's trying to escape after getting to the top and Michael's at the bottom, and just as he's cut the rope with his knife and she's coming out of the dumbwaiter, obviously all the weight drops on her and it destroys her leg. And when she pulls her leg out of the weighted part of the mechanism of the dumbwaiter, and then it kind of just slumps onto the floor, and she's dragging it along, like all the tendons are kind of like exposed slightly and things like this. It's very effective.
Again, it's another one of my sort of like things when you've got a door or anything coming down on you and they're trying to get through, and the thought of having some part of your legs or ankles crushed is always horrifying.
Something a bit random as she's crawling along the floor when Michael eventually catches up with her, and again all the violence off screen, we just see Michael's hand going like back and forth, and it has this very nice sound effect of the knife going in and out of her body. It doesn't sound like a realistic sound or anything like that. It's a cinematic sound that just suits what is going on screen. But I've always just found it strange that I enjoy a fake sound of a knife going in. It just works perfectly for it. Then we're left with Laurie. Oh no, he does also then kill obviously Mr. Brennan, the counsellor. He gets the classic. He's got the knife in the back and he's lifted off the ground by Michael Myers, and his body's
Have we seen that?
Jiggling and squirming, and then he's dropped. That was great. That's just after we think that Adam Arkin is blown away, LL Cool J. But luckily not, because the bullet just grazed him.
There was also another great moment of tension when John and Molly have finally gone and found their two friends are dead, and they've seen Michael Myers. So they start running for it, and they get to one of the school buildings, and they're knocking on the door. And they don't know if they can get in. But what they have is this great gate, like a small gate, leaving a gap between them and the door. And, of course, you get Michael Myers creeping up. He eventually gets there, and he's reaching for them, and they're just out of his reach. And not only that, but he's got the keys. Did you mention that
Molly dropped the keys? Yeah.
He's got the keys on his side of the gate. So whilst they're trying to get in desperately, not knowing if anyone's there to open up, we also see Michael just like start to undo the lock, and it's this close before Jamie Lee shows up and lets them both in. And that's the first time she is face to face with Michael in this as well.
And that's kind of a classic image when she eventually lets John and Molly into the room and shuts the door through the little
window pane thing.
Yeah. So it's like a porthole almost, like window style. It's round. And Jamie Lee Curtis is looking up through it, and Michael Myers is looking down towards her with the mask. And
it's a great moment.
Yeah, classic image in the Halloween series. That one.
It's the first one where Jamie Lee sees. Actually, it's not the first time she sees him technically, because she has like visions of him.
He shows up in window panes and things like this. Yeah.
But then, it's always like she'll close her eyes and he'll be gone. But this is the first time, and in that instant she sells it so well in that tiny little porthole window.
Yeah.
That.
She knew it was coming, but she's still in complete shock.
Yeah.
And we then get... See, this is a much more satisfying ending to the whole Laurie Strode story between her and Michael Myers. As you know, everyone was probably seen this movie, so we wouldn't mention anyway that she decapitates him at the end of the film, but she's obviously taken it against the wishes of the law and things like this, so you would imagine that she might get in some kind of trouble possibly, but would eventually be let out. And considering what we get directly afterwards with this movie and what they do with Laurie in that resurrection movie is just laughable. So this is the best ending for the whole thing. So they retcon everything. They have Halloween, Halloween 2, and then Halloween H20. Something else directly from Scream, and I mean directly. You got Molly and Sarah who are staying behind while everyone else is going off to Yosemite. And Councillor Brennan comes and checks on them quickly, and on TV they're watching Scream 2. It's the "You Wanna Die Tonight" Cece scene with Sarah Michelle Gellar. So of course Dimension Films are selling their previous product in their new movie.
As horror fans, I think that's actually a really fun touch when you watch a movie and it references other ones that you also love. And apart from that, I know you mentioned the direct references to Psycho, but the more I think about it when we're talking, the more I feel like a lot of the aspects of this film are derived from Psycho, and that must have something to do with Jamie Lee Curtis, because again, as you were talking about the fact that the gore isn't necessarily always there. Like, the kills aren't all shown, or there aren't that many. Again, that's very much Psycho, because that was the thing we've talked about previously that threw me off, was waiting for that long for a kill.
Also, the original Halloween as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's more
Also
psychological
true.
than anything you're really seeing a lot of the time. And yeah, to bring it back to great effect in this one, it's again very easy to watch, and it's a short movie, so it really just gets into it and doesn't let up for the most part. So it never drags at any point. If anything, it could probably maybe do 10 minutes more or something. You know.
And there are no unanswered questions to me, even if you don't necessarily believe. The only thing I had struggled with was where everything began. I didn't know if I believed that you could take on a fake persona, have all this trauma, and then somehow end up as a headmistress of this prestigious school. But if you just put that aside and accept it, the rest of it it's consistent, which is what I kept complaining about in number 6.
I've also got to mention that LL Cool J ad-libbed the line "comb your hair" to Josh Hartnett as a real-life blast at his current haircut. Yeah. I would like, so now that LL Cool J is just part of Halloween history, he could technically just come back. Ronnie can come back. You know, they've brought back so many random characters along the line that there's no reason not to bring Ronnie back at some point, possibly, if you want to.
Well, especially if he's
Maybe
making
he's a writer
movie
now.
about Michael Myers.
Yeah, see, there's something there already. Something there. We don't have Donald Pleasance in this movie because he passed during the previous Halloween 6. But what we do get is in memory of Donald Pleasance, and they spelt his name wrong. Can you believe it?
No, I actually can't.
And you'd put John Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Donald Pleasance as probably the 3 most known people who are involved with Halloween, and they've managed somehow to go through a whole bunch of post-production, and no one's noticed that he spelt his name wrong in the in memory part as well. Absolutely ridiculous. We do get a bit of a throwback to Dr. Loomis though, as when the first 3 characters are killed off, Marion, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and his mate, we then have like the title sequence, and we have a voiceover of Dr. Loomis, but it's not actually Donald Pleasance who's voicing it, and I never really noticed it until I found out, and now that I know, I can tell that it's definitely not Donald Pleasance, but the guy does a pretty good interpretation of saying things that he's previously said in other movies and things like this. I really like those opening title sequences where they're going over past newspaper headlines about the Halloween kills and things like that, and the sketches of Michael Myers, because this is all Dr. Loomis's stuff that they're going over. Yeah. Because it was his nurse, Marion, at the beginning, the one that gets killed. That's why her office is all trashed with all of the information about Dr. Loomis all over the place and things like this, and Laurie Strode.
Of course, because that's Michael trying to find out as well about where she is now.
Yeah. Ronnie does ruin it though, because once Laurie has got to Michael Myers and she's stabbed him multiple times and he's fallen out this hallway down onto a table, and she runs down to where he is and she's lifting the knife up to Michael Myers another time, and she's about to bring it down on him, and all of a sudden Ronnie comes out of nowhere and says, no, he's dead,
yeah,
and stops her from killing him there and then. And of course, he gets to go off and see, the bullet just grazed me, and I'm going to write thrillers now and be a success. But now Jamie Lee Curtis has still got to deal with Michael Myers because she knows that he's not dead. So he completely took away, so she then has to steal the van. And I say, very satisfying ending for that. It always makes you question why she came back for the more recent trilogy, which certainly wasn't for me. This is
that does
head and
kind
shoulders
of ruin
above.
Having an ending that is satisfying, and some people would disagree with us, I suppose. I find it very satisfying that she prevails and chops his head off, and that's the end of him. I feel like I like having an end to things like this, but there's also obviously something to be said for the people who prefer him to be continuously available for another installment.
When we were talking about Resurrection, and I said, I was going to bring into my idea for a new Michael movie where we've got parts of the Thorn rituals, and we also got Busta Rhymes and his kung fu moves, and maybe the ritual of Thorn could now give Michael the powers of kung fu, and that's how he now takes people out. That's one thing. You also then said, oh, it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat Halloween movie. And it jogged my memory that in Mortal Kombat games, you have Freddy Krueger as a playable figure, you've got Jason as a playable figure. I'm not entirely sure if Michael Myers is a playable figure in Mortal Kombat. I would be surprised if he wasn't, if them two were involved.
Is there anything more to say about these interesting installments?
I love them all. Even though Halloween H2O is a far better movie than both of the other picks, I still just, I can watch pretty much any Halloween movie and enjoy it. And yeah, going forward, I want to see more. I want to see more of the Ritual of Thorn explored. That's the route I want to go down. You know, we've had lots of reboots. Two Rob Zombie movies, then the more recent trilogy, and they're not doing it for me. I don't need it to be rebooted.
So Johnny wants to go back to the bones of number 6.
Yeah, and
do that right.
And I want to bring John Tate / John Strode back, Josh Hartnett, and implement him into the storyline. There's loads of ways you can go. Yeah, bring back Daniel Harris, the rightful. Because if I could retcon, but then again, actually no, I can't. So I'll retcon number 6, and I've got no Ritual of Thorn. I was going to say I can bring back Daniel Harris as Jamie Lloyd, but she's dead. She's gone.
Yeah, so...
Supernatural Michael Myers, that's what I'm looking at. Supernatural Michael Myers.
But not in space.
Yeah, not in space, and I don't mean like supernatural. It just has supernatural elements to it. Quite artistic.
And just to...
We've got the fantastic, by the way, Shivers magazine, H2O special there.
Very suitable.
Yeah.
So to wrap this up, we wish you a terrifying, spooky, horror-filled Halloween on the 31st. And we'll see you.
Yeah, and I'm off to procure some eyeballs and fingers for snacks, as is the tasties.
Don't worry, I got them already.
Yeah.